Okay. When the good
I'll get back. Okay.
later on tonight, I'm gonna look online to see who this Shmula Polotsky was. Yeah.
You know, it was good to ask also about
Who?
um right about
Okay.
Okay, so I guess we'll start.
yeah, got
Okay. Yeah. Shalom everyone.
Welcome.
So the nice of the shir we're going to discuss is different dinim that have to do with the Shemoneh Esrei, specifically in regards to what has to be said and what doesn't have to be said, in regards to the nusach tefillah. So in general, there's a rule, there's a klal, halacha, which is brought all over the place in all the poskim in many different contexts, called Asur l'shanis me'etpeh shtavacham. You cannot change from the matbeya, from the from the nusach that the chachamim shetavacham. Me'etpeh shtavacham, from the nusach that the chachamim set forth, whatever it is, whether it's davening, whether it's brachas. Whenever there was something that the Chacham was sacking to say a certain way, you cannot change. And if you change the matbeh, if you change the nusach, then you're not yetzer. And the question becomes, what is included in this rule, in this klal? Which parts of davening, which words, if they are said or omitted, will will be considered as have been mishan in the matbeah, that you won't be yetzer. So first of all, as a general note, most of what we'll discuss today in today's share will specifically be in regards to Shemoneh Esrei. But in general, the same klalim in general apply to Kishma. Kishma is the lashon of Torah, but the brich is Kishma, and brachas and other things that the Chacham Misakin. Just as a general, for already speaking, so I'll just say a general point that the in general the main part of davening, the main part of tefillah, is Shemoneh Esrei, which is Shemoneh Esrei is about being mevakish tzracha, bakash tzracha, asking for our needs. And the main din of tefillah, the chiv of davening, is to ask Hashem for our needs. And this is meant and still in us, people, that creations, the awareness of the Eibush, that the Eibush runs everything and the Eibush controls everything, and the Eibush is on my friends, like the Eibush is the one that gives me all my needs, and whenever I have a need, I have to come on to him. So it's machlek sishayim if this nekuda, this mitzvah is every day, da'iraisa, or only whenever a person has a need. But akapanim, that's the yisod nekuda of tefillah. Pearl the halacha is, but it's midrash midrabanim we daven every day. And the Chacham is talking Allah Shana Nusach Tefillah with 18 brachas, Yudchat brachas, and then they even add 19th. And like I said, the main part of it is the Bakash Yisrach, which are all the middle brachas. Then the Chacham is talking another 3 brachas in the beginning, and the 3 brachas at the end. And the idea is that when we're coming to the Eibishter to asking for our needs, first you have to start off with praising the Eibishter, like an Eved that comes before his master. First he praises him. There's the first 3 brachas, and then you ask for your needs, and then when you're done, there's the last 3 brachas where you thank Hashem for everything that He does. That's in general both of davening. It's going to be specifically negay important to some of the klalim that we'll discuss later. Some dinim that have to do with the adding different things in davening. We'll see later. There's a difference between the first 3 brachas and the last 3 brachas and the middle brachas. We'll see soon. That's that. In addition to Shemoneh Esrei, so there were some things that were added as part of Tefillah. So, for instance, there's a mitzvah every day to say Krishma. And the Chacham Misakin, and they were Misakin brachas before it and brachas after it. And there's an in order to be mismach, to connect from the Gula Tefillah, So we have Krishma right before davening. Second bracha after Krishma is Gula, and we want to connect that with Tefillah, and that's why it's put right before. And then in general, we have Pesukei D'Zimra, which they're mistaken us to say before, because like in general, when you come to daven, if you come to the Eibishter to ask for your needs, you start off by praising. That's why we have a whole chiluk of Pesukei D'Zimra. So that's the general the general overview of the build of davening. So back to what we're discussing specifically, which is Shemoneh Esrei. So we said that there's this rule that Chacham was talking a certain nusach, a certain lashon, certain script of what has to be said. So there's this rule. It's interesting that in Gemara, where we have this term, this concept of it's in regards. It's the Gemara says it brings this up in regards to a certain machlekes that the Gemara discusses with regards to the Birchas Hamazon, certain shaila over there, and in that over there the Gemara brings a machlekes if someone changes something, is he yetzer or not, and one man says it's okay, another man says it's a mishan mitvesh tavacham. Actually, to be accurate, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It's not regards to Birchas Hamazon. It's regards to a bracha. Birchas Re'iyah. Right, yeah, in regards to Birchas Re'iyah. Upon him, so it's interesting to note is that over there in that machlekes, it seems that the halacha is actually like the Manda Amar, like it's machlekes of Meir Rabbi Yosi. Rabbi Yosi says that Kol Misham Sheshtav Chacham Mebrachas Lo Yatza Dechevase, and it happens to be over there the halacha is like a Meir that's chaylik and says that you are yates if you made the change over there. But in general, this klal of Kol Misham Chacham is brought in all poskim, is brought in all different areas, and like I said, in the davening, tefillah, and kriyishma, and other brachas in general, and the idea is that it depends. Yeah, what we have to know is where to apply, where halach lamaisa is this klal applied. Which changes will be ma'akiv, which changes won't be ma'akiv. That's really what the question is. So that's what we'll discuss a bit. And we'll discuss also some other klalim regarding certain things that we do and don't say in davening. So upon him, so to speak specifically in regards to this klal of Mishan Mitvesh Davachamim, so there's one very, very important rule, which is brought in halacha, and it's laid down by some of the Rishonim, the Rashba, Ben Inyonei, and they say like this. A general rule. When Chacham set forth a nusach, not every single word, this is a very important general rule, not every single word from the nusach is ma'akiv. In other words, not every single word did they embed they embedded into the nusach, that if you miss it, if you don't say it, if you add it, will be considered lo yatsa. There's only certain words, certain specific haskaras, certain specific things that they want you to mention, and certain other rules which are ma'akiv. How the structure of the brachas have to be. But in general, not every word is ma'akiv. It doesn't say anywhere in Gemara how many words every bracha has to be, and it doesn't bring necessarily in every bracha, every tefillah exactly what the nusach is. So like this. So mitzad the ikir din chachamim, the ikir nusach, there's certain things that have to be mentioned. The added words are ikir din voluntary, like you said. However, I just want to point out, since we're discussing this, everything we're discussing is what's ma'akiv. Yeah, what the chacham say, if you don't do this, you're not yetzer. However, the nusach that we say is all meduyik. There's reasons for it. There's reasons why there's different nuschais.
Bless you.
So every nusach has its reasoning, for whatever, whether it's a Kabbalah or etc., whatever it may be. So obviously, a person should go and start changing these. We're discussing more what's going to be ma'akev b'diavad. If someone changed something, or we're going to see soon how it's not just about what if we change something. It's also about certain dinim. But we'll see soon about different things that askaras, different things that we have to mention in davening. If we omitted it or changed it, said it in the wrong place, what the halachs will be, we'll understand it better if we understand the base of the rules of what is ma'akev and what's not ma'akev. But obviously, we're not coming to say that anyone should just go and start and changing the nusach. Yeah, every nusach is meduyik, and there's a reason for it, and you generally keep it. The question is, what's going to be if you change it? And also to understand how things were, how different parts of Skasi, Alaviyavai, Alanissim, the different things that we say in the Sesame Tshuva, why the rules will be different about some of them. So the basic rules that are set forth is that whenever there's a bracha, there's some brachas that are piseich bebaruch, they start off with the baruch, and some brachas are chosim bebaruch, they end off with the baruch. So this is rule number one, that wherever Chum said to make a baruch, that's how you make it. Wherever they say not, you don't make it. If you add or you subtract or you switch it around, then that would be considered that you changed the bracha, Rishan the matbeya. So that's in the structure of the brachas, and then there's specifics. Whenever the Chum said to say something specific, so when you have to make those mentions, then if you didn't mention those specifics, you won't be yetzer b'diavad. But everything else, all the rest of the nusach, b'diavad, if you missed it, if you change it, you'll be yetzer. Just to add to this, so it takes a step further. The Gemara brings, and the halacha is that technically in every single bracha of the 19 brachas of davening, you're allowed to add your own words to the nusach, connected to each bracha. Sorry?
Verbally?
Verbally. Because like we said, the Chum never said how many words every bracha have to be. You can make it small, you can make it bigger. As long as you mention the important teichen of the bracha, which every bracha has its teichen, has its theme. As long as you said the baruch in the right place, you can technically add words. It's the halacha. Now, not necessarily is this something that everyone should go do, because at the end of the day, we have a nusach that's prepared for you, meduyik. It's proper to say before the Eibush. If everyone's going to start adding on words, not necessarily will be, as it's supposed to when you're coming to that before the Eibush. But in Me'ikra Din, in the structure of davening, and every bracha you can add. Specifically, Shema Kaleinu, which is a general bracha for that Eibush should accept all our tefillos, is a specific place where some people add. Others will also only add at the end after davening, after the Yila Ratzin. But Me'ikra Din, every bracha you can add words verbally.
The first three and the last three?
Yes, including the first and the last three. However, the additions have to be, like we said, within the theme. If not, then it's going to be a hefsek. Now, technically, if someone within the first three, the last three, added something that wasn't from the theme, he won't be considered a Meshana Metveya Shavacham. Because like we said, just by adding words, you weren't Meshana Metveya. As long as you mention in the first three the teichen that has the theme of the bracha, and then you add it in your own words, so it's a hefsek and it's the wrong thing to do. But you won't have been Meshana. And if what you're saying is not in the theme of the bracha. If what you're saying isn't the theme of the bracha, then it's mutlach tefillah. So again, all the brachas don't have a set amount of words. You can add verbally to the theme, and if you're adding not to the theme, then it would be considered a hefsek. But even if you added something that's not part of the theme of the bracha, it's not me'ein habracha. It would be a hefsek. You won't be considered a meshana metbeya, and you won't be considered that you weren't yetzer. Okay, those are the general rules.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. I thought the birthday would be.
So, now that we mentioned
Thank you for bringing it.
So just to bring a few examples how this comes lemaisa, I think we'll read a few Mishnah where this halacha comes lemaisa in different cases, both in Kishma and in Shemona Esrei. It's I just want to you mentioned about the first and the last three. In a minute, we'll discuss a rule in regards to the first and last three, which is it's different than the rest of the brachas. But you're correct that there is a difference.
I didn't know offhand that there's a difference or not.
So there is, but we'll see.
It's a request. I mean, the Magen Avraham is not a request. It's a sheva. It's a
Correct.
sheva.
Correct. So basically, the Gemara says
The sticker request where it's not a request is like
100%. So we'll discuss a bit more later, but just to say Nakuda, the Gemara says that in the first Yibach, last Yibach, you're not allowed to add Zakashat Tzrachim. You're not allowed to add personal needs.
it's not a request. The person.
Exactly. We'll see in a minute that it's not so simple. Exactly. So we'll discuss. So I would like to open up.
In some conservative and reform shuls, they had some words onto the tefillah. Is according to this is
I'm
that
not
permitted
familiar
or
with
not?
exactly what they added, so I wouldn't know. It depends what exactly the addition is. Oh, here, if you could take a Shulchan. We'll read some Sifrim Shulchan together. So I'll tell you. So basically, we read a few different. We're going to read a few small pieces in different simanim that discuss this a lot and how it comes, how it's applied in these different. So we'll start off with Shkim Samach Vav. Siman Samach Vav Sif Yud Beis. Just gonna flip through a few pieces. So this is from Hilchos Kishma. Siman Samach Vav Sif Yud Beis. It should be on page. It starts in page Reish Lamed Aleph, but really we want to start. Second. So it is right in the middle. Yeah, there's it's broken up. Sif Yud Beis broken up into a few paragraphs. On page Reish Lamed Beis, the second to last paragraph. It starts with Tzaddik. You have it?
Yeah.
With Tzaddik. So we'll just I'll just read it. And basically, this is we'll see these different halachas.
Is this the Alter Rebbe's?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry I didn't mention. Yeah, so we're going to be opening now the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch,
Which
Chelik
daf?
Aleph, Ayer Chaim Chelik Aleph.
Yeah. What daf?
In the new prints, it's page Reish Lamed Beis. It's Siman Samach Vav. If Yud Beis, the second last paragraph, and it starts with the words with Tzaddik. So we discussed. Sorry.
You got it.
So he's discussing the bracha, the bracha of after Kishma in the Shachris, and he's going to discuss which parts of this bracha are ma'akiv. So he says like this: "Tzarich lahaskir." What are the things that are part of the matbeya of this bracha that if you miss, it's going to be ma'akiv? He says: "Tzarich lahaskir yitzis mitzrayim, umalchus, v'kiyas yamsuf, umakas b'chayris." In the bracha of the emes v'yatzev, the bracha of emes v'yatzev, and so too v'chein in the bracha of emes v'emunah, in the bracha of emes v'emunah. And he says, if you didn't mention these concepts, these things, then you're not yetz your chayim. And you have to go back to the bracha. But he says those are the specifics that we know from Chachamim that are ma'akiv. That's part of the matbeya shetav Chachamim. Avashar nusach, the rest of the nusach of the bracha. Im shinaisa, if you change it, v'lei amar say lashon, you didn't say that lashon elam nusach, you said a different nusach. Afilim dilik harbe, if you skip many of the words yatsa, you were yatsa. So too v'cheinu b'nusach shakal brachas haruchas. So too is by all the other brachas that we have that were set before us. V'lei amru, and they didn't say this halacha of sham shanim etvei shtavacham. That some of the changes from the lashon of the what the Chum said that if someone changes lo yatsa, they didn't say this rule. Ella only in the case kishmeshana b'psichasan, with the psicha, or with the chsima, Avashara nusach, but the rest of the nusach ain't ma'akiv, is not ma'akiv. Ala tevis shepartu chacham mishen ma'akiv. Only the specific things that were told specifically have to be said and have to be mentioned. Like we said. And he goes on to mention also the Gemais from Birch Samaz. This v'tayra machs Birch Samaz, Sham b'tefilla, chin kol yayitzim. Specific haskara, specific things that mentions that we have to mention, those are ma'akiv. Things that were mentioned specifically are not ma'akiv. Now we'll go to also another piece in Simas Amachas. So he's discussing also in Birchis Kishma. So here we're going to discuss about someone that adds. Until now we discussed, he spoke halacha, what you have to mention, and if you were medalik, if you skipped out, if you omitted, it's not a problem, as long as you mentioned the important things, and you didn't change from the chesimah, the aschala, tzicha, the bracha. So we have over here Simas Amachas. He starts off like this: Mashenegin b'mekayim harbe lemer piyutim b'birchas kishma. Many places are neig to add in commonly piyutim and birchas kishma. So he brings his machlokes. Yash emrim, yash emrim, that you shouldn't do this. And then I want to go on to the next yash emrim, because this is what we're going to bring it for the ikir. The second yash emrim, the second paragraph, it says yash emrim she'ein iser b'davar. There's no iser to add in piyutim. Why? Because he says like this, there's a cloud, it's part of the rules of the brachs. It says that there's a Mishnah, it says, where the Chacham said to be makatzer, to be short, don't be mayrich, and don't be makatzer. So l'chura we have, it's a Mishnah, the Mishnah says, l'chura from this Mishnah it seems like you're not allowed to add words, you're not allowed to take off words, you have to keep to the exact number of words. But actually it's on this Mishnah that the Rashba says what we mentioned in the beginning, that really there are no exact words to the nusach. Mi'ikradin mitzat the matpeisha tavacham. What's pshat in the Mishnah? You're not allowed to be makatzer. So he says, Le amru ela bebrachas aruchas shepoischis bebaruch b'choismis bebaruch. That in the brachas that have start with a baruch and end with a baruch, eini rash lakatzer. The Mishnah is saying you're not allowed to be makatzer. You're not allowed to subtract one of the one from the baruch. And if you change by subtracting one of the either psich or the ksima, but the rest of the nusach, like shir, there's no shir. Shir milis, you have to say these amount of words like pachas, not less, not more. Because if that would be the case, that's the exact number, the Chum only mention the things that is akpada. The rest there is no akpada. Like we just mentioned from Simas in we don't have explicitly in Shas that the Zakpada say these words. He said a different lashon. Or if you like or if you didn't say it at all, you omitted it. So he says the same thing. If you added, you could add many words. You could add piyutim. I feel it a tesis merubal ikir. Even if you're adding more than the amount of words that we have in our original nusach. Like we mentioned earlier, there's a halacha that you're allowed to be meisif me'ein kol bracha. In davening, Shemon Esrei, every one of the Yudchas Brachas, you're allowed to add me'ein. Of each bracha, you're allowed to add words. Me'ein kol bracha bracha, kumesh yisbar v'simon kof yotes. So, and he finishes off halacha v'chein negim d'niselu v'hamekul v'eina emram lehifsid. So you don't want to add in these extra piyutim lehifsid because the shit that has a problem with it. But the ikar halacha is that it's fine. I want to bring one more dogma from going back to Shemona Esrei. It's Simon Kuf Yudalit. The truth is, before we go to Kuf Yudalit, that's back to Shemona Esrei. So I'll just mention. I don't know if we're reading inside, but there's another case in Krishma. It's in the test. There's a few places where he mentions a case where he basically says like this. He says that there's a bracha before and before Shemana. Sorry, before Birchas Kishma, the first bracha. So by night, Hamad V'Ravim. So the question is, let's say by day he starts saying Yitzir. Sorry, by day it's the bracha of Yitzir, by night it's Hamad V'Ravim. What happens if you start saying by day the bracha of the night? So basically he says like this. If someone started off by saying Yitzir, then he says the whole nusach of Hamad V'Ravim, and then he finishes off Yitzir. So he's Yitzir. Even though the entire middle of the bracha he said a different bracha, he's Yitzir, because as long as he said the right psich and the right psim. But let's say for Kert, he said the psich and chsim of a marvel, but he said the whole nusach from Yitzim. Again, it's the same rules, that the same column that we're saying now. That the nusach in between is not what's ma'akiv. What's ma'akiv is specific haskaris, specific things that they said to mention, and also the bracha, the psich and the chsim. Now let's go to Kuf Yudalet. Some Kuf Yudalet. This is back to Shemona Esrei. It's in the middle of Sif Das. Actually, not. Maybe we'll start from the beginning of Sif Das, because there's another din over here, which is the Hemshech is in the Hemshech of the Shir is from the thing that we want to discuss. So we'll start from the beginning of Sif Das, and he mentions another rule, which is part of our discussion. So in the Siman Kuf Yudal Tzivches, it's page Shin Lamed Aleph. So in the new print, it's Shin Lamed Aleph. Siman Kuf Yudal Tzivches. So he says like this: Gimel brachas rishenis, the first three brachas of Shemona Esrei, like we discussed earlier, is the first three brachas, the last three brachas, the middle brachas. So he says the first three brachas kashuvas ka'achas, they're considered as one unit. Pearl vinyanim echad, they're one theme. L'sad shivchei shel makom, to praise the Eibishter. Peidim she'elis tzrachav, before we come to ask our needs, like ka'avid, like avid shemisad shavach ifnei rabbi peidim shavakish pras imenu. That he's misad the shavach of his master before he comes to ask for his needs. And so too b'chein gimel achreinis, the last three brachas of Shemona Esrei kashuvas ka'achas, because they're like shehein ka'avid shekibel pras mirabbi v'nifter, and he's leaving him v'haylach. Commission is barb some confused base.
That's press. Usually press means a hat.
Oh, here means the here is yes needs. Lefichach, therefore, b'chol makim. So since the first three brachas and the last three brachas are one unit, so in essence, if someone makes a mistake, let's say someone for whatever reason is not yetze the second bracha, and he has to go back. So he says like this: Lefichach, b'chol makim shata begin l'rishenis. If someone made a mistake for one of the first three brachas, let's say the third bracha, not the kach, he has to go back to the beginning of davening. Because when you make a mistake in the bracha, you have to read the bracha. And if the first three brachas are one unit, so if you made a mistake in the third bracha, it's like you made a mistake in the first three brachas. So you have to go back to the beginning of the first three brachas. The same idea. You have to go back to the last three brachas, which starts with the bracha of Aveda, the bracha of Ritzei. If he made a mistake that he has to go back, then he has to go back to the whole unit of three brachas. And he says which type of mistake. If it's a mistake you can't fix on the place. Obviously, if it's a mistake you can fix on the place, you fix right away. But if it's a mistake you can't fix, you have to go back to all three. So I read this a bit wrong. I have to read it again like this. Only if it's a type of mistake that the only way to fix it is going back to the beginning of the bracha. So if it's a mistake that the only way to fix it is by going to the beginning of the bracha, so you have to go back to the beginning of the three brachas. If it's a mistake you can fix in wherever you're holding, so fix it wherever you're holding. But if you would have to go back to the beginning, you would go back to the beginning of all three. So he gives an example. What is an example? If someone makes a mistake in a bracha, he's not yetze, and he has to go back. So we have to know two things over here, like we said. We have to know why you're not yetze, right? We said not every time you change words, you're not yetze. It has to be something that's ma'akif, we said. And if this mistake happens in the first three brachas, the last three brachas, you go back to the beginning of the three brachas. Mashenkin, if it would be in the middle of brachas, obviously you would only have to go back to the beginning of that bracha. So he gives an example. Kigain, sheta b'chasimasa. If you made a mistake in the chesima, like we already mentioned, that's one of the things that are makif. Shechasim b'bracha zeh b'inim bracha cheres. That instead of ending off with what's meant to be ended off in this bracha, you end it off with a lashon from a different bracha. Like we said by Maravara, the bracha of Kishma. That from the bracha of Kishma in the morning, you said the nusach of the bracha of the bracha of Berachas Kishma at night. You weren't yet. You ended off the chesima with the wrong chesima. Ay shechasem hakel hakadosh b'seis mitzvah. We all know that in the Seis Mitzvah, B'derech we say Hakel HaKadosh. In Seis Mitzvah, at the end of Berachas HaKadosh, the last of the first three brachas of Kishma, of Shmonas, I'm sorry, is Hakel HaKadosh. During the Seis Mitzvah, you have to say Hamelch HaKadosh. What happens if you didn't say Hamelch HaKadosh? So you weren't Yetzer. Why? Because you changed something in the Chesima of the bracha. And these are one of the things that the Chachamim, it's brought in Shas, it's brought in the Gemara, that's Ma'akiv. It's one of the things that we said that it's in the Gemara it tells us these are one of the things that are that were makbid on. That if you change, it's going to be a problem. The reason why I'm stressing this, that it's one of the things that are brought in the Gemara that are makiv, because you might have thought that it's the same. The nekud of the bracha is kedusha. It's mentioned the kedusha leibishter. So if you say Malach HaKadosh, it's the same theme. So you didn't change. But since in the Gemara tells us that in the Seis Mitzvah you have to mention the Maluch of the Eibishter, so you missed out the Maluch. It's one of the things that are makif. So and you already passed the time frame of Ketei Dibber. And since you passed the time frame of Ketei Dibber, you can't fix it by right away going back and being and going back and saying it the right way. Because the only way to fix it by repeating the right words are within Kedei Dibber. If it's not Kedei Dibber, it won't work. Similarly, if you started the next bracha, it would also be an issue. Once you started the next bracha, you already left this bracha. And right, it wouldn't help to just say the words Melech HaKadosh, and you have to go back to the beginning of Shmonas. So, and he says, similarly, the same thing applies to the brachas in the middle of Shmonas, all the middle brachas. If you ended off the chesima not properly, if at the end of Atachenin you ended off the chesima of Refeinu, so it's not enough to just, and you waited, let's say, Tech Dibber, so it's not enough to say right away the chesima of Atachenin, rather you have to go back to the beginning of Atachenin. The difference is that, let's say, you mess up on the chesima of Refeinu, and you remember after Tech Dibber, you don't have to go back to Atachenin, you don't have to go back to the middle brachas, the beginning of Shemini for that matter, you just go back to that bracha. It's only the first few brachas and the last few brachas that you have to go back to the beginning of the set. Now he gives another example of what means something that you change that that it'll be makiv. You ended off the end of the bracha, you did properly. The chesima was proper. Ela shekol nusach bracha ad chesima amar nusach acher shaleik in bracha zuklal leinisker ad acher shechasem. So the entire lashon, the entire nusach bracha you said wrong, and only the chesima you said properly. Or another example, a shalei amar shum nusach tefilla rak chesima vada shenimtza, which comes out in these two cases. That what comes out? Shalei amar bracha zu ella b'metbeya katzer kebirchas ha'peiris ha'mitzvos shepsichasan hi chasimasan. Basically, like we said earlier, what's ma'akiv? What's ma'akiv is that you should say the berachis, the chesima, the psicha, right, correctly. Now, there are in essence, there are really three types of brachas. There are four types of brachas. There's a bracha which is metbeya katzer, like berachis and let's say shahak al ne'im. You say barach ta Hashem, and then you say shahak al ne'im, right? Shahak al ne'im. That's a bracha of metbeya katzer. All you have is a barach and what you have to say. Then you have a bracha that has a nusach, a long nusach before the bracha. Sorry? The nusach. Matpeh shetav chacham is a nusach the chamim were kaveya. There's four. There's a bracha which is matpeh katzi. You just say baruch Hashem l'kelim, and then the nusach you have to say. Then there's a bracha three types of brachas, three different types of brachas. We have a nusach in between, before the. But one option is where you have a baruch in the beginning, a baruch at the end. One option is you only have a baruch in the beginning. Another option is you have only a baruch at the end. So if you ever change this setup, like we said earlier, that if you want to make a baruch, if let's say it's a baruch, you have to baruch at the beginning, you make it a baruch at the end, or you have to be pesach, you have to be chaysim baruch, and you make and you're pesach baruch, etc. In any case, when you change the build of the bracha, you're not yetzer. So he says the same thing. If the brachas of Shemona Esrei are brachas that are really a pesach baruch and chaysim baruch. The setup of the brach is really, they have a brach in the beginning, brach at the end. The reason why we don't make a brach in the beginning is because since they're samach, they're connected, all brachas are one, come right after the other, so it's considered the brach, since it comes right after a bracha that ended off the brach, you don't have to make another bracha. But in essence, the type of brach is a brachas that are pesach b'barach and chesed b'barach. Therefore, if you were to skip out the whole nusach and just say a bracha, it would come out that in a way that you're changing it from a bracha that in the sense of the bracha in the beginning, a nusach, and a bracha at the end. It's as if you're only making a medbeah katzer, like a shahar kol nevet baruch, where you just say a baruch and say whatever you have to say. So if you change the setup, then that would be considered mashana medbeah tacham, and it would be makiv, and you wouldn't be yetzer. This is all along the lines we were saying earlier, that the rule of mashana medbeah tacham that you're not yetzer, again, only applies to specific things you have to say, and if you change the chsima and the psicha, or the setup of or only having a chsima without any nusach involved. So he sure says again the same thing. So in such a case, would be considered the shinim atvesh tavacham brachas, and therefore the yatsi dechavase, and therefore tzarich lachs on reish brachazu. And even brachas emtzayis, even brachas emtzayis. If it's from the beginning, in the middle of brachas, from the brachas you go back to this brach, the beginning of this bracha. But to begin with rishonis, tzarich lachs on the reish. You have to go back to the beginning of davening. To begin with rishonis, you go back to the beginning of the set of the last three brachas, which would be, let's say, the bracha of avodah. The rest of the actually, the last paragraph is very negative. It's again the same thing. But if you were skipped in the middle of the bracha, so even if she said something that's totally unrelated, so you say, let's say the fe'enu, and then you start saying a nusach that has nothing to do with refuah, any other thing, any other bakash you have neighbor, nothing to do with refuah, then you end off. And then right before you say the chsima, you say something about the four, but not like the nusach that we have. You're not considered mashana mitvesh of chametz. Because Rabbi Simon we just read together. A bracha chaysim bebarach and pesach bebarach. Only the psich and the chsim are the parts that will be ma'akev b'diakt. Or brachas yudchas. Just another point we just mentioned in the brachas of Shemona Esrei. The chaysim bebarach einan pesach bebarach. Afim shina sichasa v'amar lashon acher v'lashon acher v'inna bracha dina kilu shina v'amtza bracha. Sharei hein bebracha smuchas zulazu brachas smuchas zulazu v'chop sichasa nika amtza. Even though, in essence, the brachas Shemona Esrei are really a pesach baruch chesem, but the word lefeinu, for instance, isn't the psicha, because we're really considering the psicha the last bracha. So that's why if you change the word lefeinu, technically it would be considered as dilig b'amtza. But technically, someone started the change from the word lefeinu. He didn't say it correctly. He didn't say lefeinu. He started saying a whole different nusach. And right before the baruch, he says something about the refuah, and then finish off the bracha. Correctly, then he'll be it.
He makes up his own bracha.
Yes,
So if somebody,
that we just read inside this.
so if somebody in between the brachas, he adds two brachas. Let's say he adds automatic you find to cut the bracha on that's okay. It'll be more than the.
We're discussing now the brachas of Shemona Esrei.
He adds a bracha.
In middle of Shemini Esrei.
Yeah, but he said he answers for Angel. Before he starts in the stuff, he doesn't know whether I it's under a light.
Right.
He says, right.
Right. So what he's saying is that obviously it's asur l'chatchila because it's a hefsek, but he wouldn't be considered a meshanim at peish tavachamim. And let's say he did that and he finished Shemini Esrei. Let's say he does like you said. Before the feifel, he says bracha shekeichu esem aleilim. Yeah, esem esem v'reish. And then after Shemini Esrei, he realizes what I just do. I added in words I wasn't supposed to say. He comes and asks you a shayla. You do have to make some. He did it by kavanah, and he comes after and he says, "You know what? I did the wrong thing. What do I do now? Do I have to say Shemini Esrei again?"
There's another issue.
So the halacha is that there's a rule called Mishanim et Be'er Shavacham. If you Mishanim et Be'er Shavacham, then you have to go back. Everything we're discussing now is about when you have to go back. The only time you have to go back if you changed Matbe'er Shavacham. If you didn't change Matbe'er Shavacham, even though it may have been a hefsek and it's the wrong thing to do, etc., etc. However, we're not going to make you go back. That's what we're discussing. We're discussing today what are things that are considered Mishanim et Be'er Shavacham that are considered that you're not Yetzer and it's Ma'akim B'diavad.
Changing this word, you mentioned before. He's in the middle of a bracha. He just adds things in that bracha.
Correct.
Yeah.
As opposed to adding the bracha. Now you have more than 18 brachas. More than 20.
He said Baruch Hashem. You said.
Yes.
As opposed to what you were saying.
Correct.
He decides to add other things, but it's still in that,
Okay, so
it's still that the Shemona Esrei of bracha.
I hear what you're saying. You're asking that it's not just he added a lashon, he added a baruch.
Yeah.
If you added a baruch, he added to the brachas. I'm 90% sure that in such a case I wouldn't say that you weren't Yetzer Shemini Esrei. We wouldn't say that you have to go back to Shemini Esrei.
He added a bracha.
Yeah. Even if you added a bracha, as long as you said the 18 brachas, the 19 brachas correctly, and like we said, which parts are ma'akiv of the bracha? Mainly the chesima. You say me'ein chesima before the chesima, because we said if you don't say me'ein chesima before, then it would be like a shahakal ne'bedvar, it would be a matbe'a katzer. As long as you added something me'ein before and you finished off correctly, the all 19 brachas, even if you added something in between, it would be a half second, it's asr to do, but it wouldn't say that you weren't Yetzer Shemini Esrei and you have to go back.
Well, my question would be stronger in the Yerkos Haidah, with binding, right? So right after he says the Mafish Nasi Tzion. So there, if you would add Yerkos Haidah, Shekar Baruch Hu is also Haidah. The whole list of Baruch Haidah. So in that,
Correct. So you're asking Chetchila or B'diavad?
either one.
So I would say like this: B'diavad.
Binding is the Haidah.
Correct. So B'diavad.
Yerkos Haidah, in that Haidah.
Okay, so B'diavad is for sure not an issue. L'Chetchila, it's interesting that you're saying. We mentioned earlier. I don't know if we mentioned that the Gemara says that in every one of the Yud Ches brachas, you're allowed to add L'Chetchila. You're allowed to add me'ein and Zbron Allah and Simon Kuf Yates. You're allowed to add me'ein of that bracha in your own nusach. Every bracha you're allowed to add nusach that's similar to that bracha. So like you said, in Haidah you're allowed to add Shech Haidah. However, I just mentioned that you probably would not be allowed to add a baruch. Simon. Meaning you would be able to say Shekech G'ras Malayla, but you wouldn't be allowed to add baruch to Hashem.
But we have never become 20 brachas.
Exactly. You wouldn't be allowed. You could add within each bracha something that's within that thing.
In the bracha of say we have that.
Okay, so you're not.
Or
We're short on time. We're short on time. I guess. We had some. I had a few more things I wanted to discuss connected with these things.
Yeah.
However, sorry. Okay, so I just want to try to get a few more things in. I would just mention one more disclaimer because we're discussing this. I don't know if it's advised the Chetchila. Everything we're talking about is according to dry halacha and ikar adin. It's not necessarily proper for anyone to just add the onus chayis and the different brachas, even though ikar adin it's mutter, because when you're standing for the Eibusher, you want to make sure that everything you say is proper. So and that's why we have a nusach that we say the Chazal or Masakin and they're that's obviously 100% meduyik. Different eschayis with their different differences, but each nusach has its diyukim. So I'm not necessarily saying that everyone should start adding to the nusach. Just saying, make it a din according to dry halacha. You could add to every bracha. and specifically there many add specifically in Birchas Shema Kaleinu. That's because that's more of a general bracha for all the different tefillahs people add, and some add after Yulei Ratzon, where it's a place where we're done Shemon Esrei. It's a place to be meisif in Tachanunim. In Bakashas, that's a place that people add. So if you ask me the right way to go about it, but what we're saying is more according to Dry Halacha. Is the chiyuv here? Right. Okay. So.
That's right.
So I guess I'll speak something specific connected to what you were mentioning about the first bracha, the last brachas. So, like we said, you can add. Technically, according to Allah, you can add to every bracha in that bracha. There's the specific klal in the Gemara brings. You cannot add in the first brachas and the last brachas bakashat tzrachav, asking for needs. The middle brachas are set for needs. First brachas and last brachas are set for shavach, and haida. First bracha shavach and the last bracha haida.
But you have to repeat. If you have your own thing, you have to repeat the bracha from the siddur, or you just. If I want something for myself,
correct
in the middle,
yeah,
and I'm saying it, I have to repeat.
No,
Just whatever I said, and that's it.
You're asking if you already did it. Do you have to repeat the bracha?
No.
You're asking the chetchilah.
I didn't say it. I didn't say what it said in the siddur. That's okay. I said only what I need. I have to repeat what's said in the siddur.
So like we said, you have to repeat what's ma'akiv b'diavad. First of all, you should say everything it says in the siddur.
Okay.
B'diavad, what's ma'akiv is the simmer. As long as you mention the theme of the bracha before the chsima, then you have to at least say from baruch to the end. Because if
is the chetchilah and the
correct,
so if you say the baruch,
correct.
you have to say a pasuk before, and that's the theme.
Correct. So this we just read over here. The reason
Say
is
that before.
right. So the reason is because if you were not to say anything on the theme of the bracha, let's say the fe'enu, you only say the baruch, and you didn't say anything about it before. Correct. So
within the
understand. So basically, the reason is very simple because everything until the baruch you said not unrelated. So it's as if you just added in your own words, and it's a hefsek, right? What are you left with? Baruch Atah Hashem, that has to do with the fe'enu, right? It comes out that you basically said a matbeah katzer. You said a bracha that's similar to the Shakhan Vivai. And you basically changed the sorry?
That makes it mutter b'diavad.
If you added
That
me'ein chsima before the chsima,
taking it out of the medbei.
you're changing from Medbeah Katzer to a bracha that ends off with a baruch. And right, you need something to change it from Medbeah Katzer.
By the psich and Sabbath,
So in Shemoneh Esrei, the psich is really relying on the bracha. That's why all you need is one word about a four, and it's you had the baruch in the last bracha. You were mafsik with other things. Then you said the four, which is what you need, and then you ended off with the bracha. So the Gemara said you're not allowed to add your own bakashas in the first three brachas and the last three brachas. Okay, that's a rule of the Gemara. What becomes interesting with this halacha is, and this will just bring out that everything we spoke to the last the whole shir is not only negeya to us and what we say in our brachas. And if we change, we don't change. It's also negeya to certain takanas that were put into tefillah. What do I mean? The Rishonim ask a question in Shemoneh Esrei during Aseres Mitzvah. We add in. So there's two sets of things that we change on Aseres Mitzvah. One thing is that we say Hamelach Hakadosh and Hamelach Mishpat. These are things that are mentioned in the Gemara.
And that's in the first book, the first three.
Yeah, correct. That's in the. But then there's another a set of things that we add, which you don't find in the Gemara. There's the four haskadas that we have: Zechein L'chaim, Mitzvah Meicha, and Kasenu. So these four haskadas are not mentioned in the Gemara. And the Rishonim ask a question. They say, "How is it?" So it seems from a lot of the Rishonim understood that these Haisafas came from the Goyim. So they ask a question. They say the Gemara says you're not allowed to add in the first three brachas, last three brachas, things that are not the bakashas tzrachav. So how are you allowed to add in the first brachas, last brachas, these bakashas during the Seis Mitzvah? This is the shayla that the Rishonim answer. Rishonim answer that basically the truth is, if you look at it, in the last three brachas, let's say Sim Shalom. Sim Shalom is asking the Eibishter for bakashas. So Shem say this rule that that says in the Gemara you're not allowed to add to the first bracha, last bracha, bakashas tzrachim, is referring to tzarchim prati, private tzrachim. But tzarchim Adam Shiny, the tzrachim of the whole klai altogether is different. That's why Sim Shalom, the whole thing you ask for klai altogether. So too the brachas that we ask in Seres Metshuva, all these askaras that we mentioned, where it's in the nusach of the Rabbin. There's a Chreinu L'chaim. It's really asking for God's klai Yisrael. Sorry. Right, but it's said for God's klai Yisrael together. It's not asking for my own personal. When you say Baruch Aleinu, so you have in mind your own personal tzrachim, your own pronouncing. When you say pronouncing over there, it's included for the whole klai Yisrael. That's the nusach of it.
Is here the
Okay. So. Sorry.